very large tuskers called the Magnificent Seven.
Yes.
And what the person I regard as possibly the most experienced and knowledgeable elephant expert at the time was Anthony Hall Martin, who was in the Kruger Park. And Anthony wrote a book called The Magnificent Seven. There just happened to be these amazing tuskers, Shawu, Mafunyan, Shingwedzi, Joao.
Which camp in Kruger has it?
Gonna get there.
Okay.
And thanks for prompting from the
No.
stage left. I'm joking. So he wrote this book, and Paul Bosman painted the watercolors for it. And these were 7 immense tuskers that have all happened to die in that decade, and they're in the Letaba Museum,
Yes.
the Elephant Museum at Letaba.
Yeah.
So they're all there, and they recovered all their tusks, except for, I think, for Jumbo was another one who broke his tusks. But they all died naturally, or some of them were affected by poachers' bullets, but they were not killed by poachers. And all those tusks are there, like Shawu, the longest tusks, 11.5, 12 feet, but very narrow. Anyway, in 1987, I was at Sabi Sabi, and the guides came to me one day and they said, Mesh, we found this amazing big elephant bull. He must be a member of the Magnificent Seven. So I thought, shit, okay, let me go and see this guy. And I went out with some of the guides, and there he was. He had some young bulls with him who ran away because they shit scared these youngsters anyway. And he was lying with his tusk in the fork of a tree sleeping. So I looked at him and I said, sure. So anyway, I phoned Anthony the next day. I said, Anthony, it's Michel here from Sabi Sabi, because we were right on the opposite bank of the Sabi River. And he said, no, he's not a member of the Magnificent, but we know him. He's called Mandlev. I said, oh, wow. And they were monitoring him, and he said, listen, will your guys monitor that side of the river? We'll monitor this side, just keep an eye. Because right next door to Sabi Sabi and the Paul Kruger Gate entrance was a citrus farm called Lisbon Citrus Estates. And elephants love fruit. They love citrus. And if he'd left, he could have been shot. He could have easily got $1 million to shoot that trophy. Anyway, I said, okay, cool. And that elephant became such an amazing elephant for our guests to see. Thousands of guests, because he was so relaxed. But for me personally, he became quite an iconic elephant. I wasn't guiding at the time, and I used to go out sometimes and just sit and admire this amazing elephant. Fast forward to 91, 92, there was an incredible drought in the Lowveld. It was a super El Nino, whatever. And we had 2 lodges, Bush Lodge and River Lodge, which is on the banks of the Sabi River. And one lunchtime, it was winter, I'll never forget, it was only about 6 inches deep. It's interesting enough, the Sabi River is the only river in Kruger that's never stopped flowing in human memory. All the others, Limpopo, Livubu, Olifants, have, but not the Sabi. And we're having lunch on the deck, and there he came walking down the river. So I thought, shit, I'm going to go and walk with him. The guests were going to go to sleep, and Ranger said, I'll go for a walk. So I walked along the river, and I took a rifle, because along the river can be quite hectic with hippos and buffalo. Anyway, I was walking with him, and he was walking in the river. Again, the young males just buggered off. And I was talking to him and, seeing what his reaction would be. And he just ignored me. And then I came to a patch of reeds. So I loaded that rifle. When he heard that metal on metal, he stopped and he looked down. He was a big elephant. He looked down at me and he just turned. And being the old gentleman he was, he didn't run blindly. He ambled, but quickly. So shit, I thought, yeah, that's interesting, Why? So I phoned Anthony again. I said, Anthony, he says, come and have a coffee with me. So I go and have a coffee with him. I walk into his office in Skukuza. And he says, before I start, the story I'm going to tell you, if you tell another scientist that Anthony Martin said this story to you, I'll say you're lying. So now I'm immediately pricked up. What's he going to tell me? So we're sitting there. He says, Mesh, it's 1991. Let's think Mandlev's 60 years old. So he was born in 1931. So I think, wow. He said, but maybe his story with his mother and aunts, he was born in Kenya. Now my hairs are starting to rise, because I'm not like Jim, who's a scientist. I'm a philosopher. You know, this is. And he said, 1931 was the beginning of the big white hunting era. The long bar or the Stanley bar in the Stanley Hotel, the long bar in Nairobi, Finch Hatton, and all these guys. And they were affected or impacted by hunting. Moved down to Tanzania, still hunting. Moved to Mozambique, still hunting. Came into Kruger, no hunting, but culling later.